today?
Thank you, brother.
Alhamdulillah.
We started.
YouTube, now Facebook.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
We'd like to welcome everyone to Talim here at Masjid Al Mu'minun in Memphis, Tennessee on this Sunday of December in the year 2024. As usual here, we will start by having our noontime prayer called Zuhr prayer. And right after that brief prayer, which will be just a few minutes, we will begin our actual teaching and discussion session. If we can have the adhan at this time.
Walaikum assalam.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Ashhadu Rasulullah. Hayya ala salat. Hayya ala falah. Hayya Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Hayya ala salat. Hayya ala salat. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Allahu Akbar. Sami Allah liman hamida. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Sami Allah liman hamida. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Sami Allah liman hamida. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Sami Allah liman hamida. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
We'd like to open the Talim this Sunday by reciting Al-Fatiha together. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Before getting into the prepared part of the Talim, I just wanted to mention this morning I was watching a YouTube video from a brother that we had to come here and give us a workshop on the pronunciation of Al-Fatiha. I don't remember if that was Muslims in Memphis month or if that was a Ramadan session. It was the Imam Ashir Kirk, who's like actually from Memphis currently. And without trying to repeat his whole presentation, one of the first things that he said about the first ayah is that a lot of people say Bismillah, but it's really Bismillah. Bismillah. That the letter that we pronounce I, like as in it, okay, is really always I. So instead of Bismi, it's Bismi. And we're used to saying Allah, Rasulullah, but following that I sound, it becomes Bismillah in that case. And so the A's, it turns out, what we'll call just A, the A sound, has a light sound, an A sound, and it has a heavy sound, an Ah sound. So according to the formal sciences of Tajweed, which he's certified in, it should be Bismillah, Bismillah. All right. Here at Masjid Al-Mu'minun, our Talim is normally devoted towards whatever was the presentation on the Jummah 2 days prior. So, are there any takeaways that we have that we remember? Anybody who's here that was here on Friday? Any takeaways? Anything that you remember besides the fact that it was Friday? Granting was part of it.
Yes.
For sure.
And it is true.
Allah's promise is true. And there's a dua in the Quran where we ask Allah to grant us what he promised. Yes, that is true. So that's enough for it.
Yeah, it's been an ancient type.
And it's an ancient type process. Ancient type process. And one of the things we mentioned was that there is a handout in the lobby that's been there a while. It's entitled Ancient Success Formula still works. Oh my gosh, there's a slide. This says the same thing. Ancient success formula still works. We were making the point that we are not saying, when we say Al-Fatiha, the opening chapter of the Quran, and it kind of disciplines us and it trains us on what to declare and what to ask for, and it gives us a perspective, and it's not a perspective where we're claiming that with the coming of the Quran and the coming of Prophet Muhammad, we have a brand new straight way. But the perspective that Al-Fatiha trains us in is that there has been long time ago, a straight way, and it's already proven, and people have done right and received the grace of Allah upon them. People have done wrong and received the wrath of Allah on them. People have gone astray in the past. So Prophet Muhammad recited it, his companions recite it, and it's a perspective where we are acknowledging that Allah's wisdom didn't start when anybody showed up. Allah's wisdom has always been Allah's wisdom. Okay? Actually, Adam received Allah's grace, and Adam got deceived and prayed. And Allah made promises to Adam. Allah made promises through all the prophets. As I recall, Allah said to Adam, after saying, "Get you all down from here," the promise was, "If there comes to you as is sure guidance from me, whosoever follows my guidance, on them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve." Right? And shall is future language. That's a promise. Whoever follows the guidance, on them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. And I keep referring to this discovery, this personal discovery that I made. Fear and grief cover different tenses. You fear for the future and you grieve over the past. You don't grieve over something until after it happens. And you don't fear about something unless you're afraid that it's going to happen. So that's the future and the past. So Allah's eternal wisdom covers all that. So I thought I would read the handout that I didn't read before. Ancient success formula still works. We'll take a minute, please listen. The word that actually means submission and peace in the ancient Arabic language is Islam. In religion, this means that we give up being proud, stubborn, and independent-minded, and we find peace. Al-Islam, literally the submission and peace, is the peace and purity of worship that you can have in your own personal relationship with the exceedingly gracious, incomparably merciful, all-wise, almighty, boundlessly loving creator, cherisher, sustainer, unrivaled, unequaled, one and only sovereign, true superpower of the universe, Allah, or the one true God. It is ancient, it is full. It is what the prophets and messengers of God have described as being the bond we should have with Him. The price of this peace and purity is submission. This means you must let go of ego, paganism, and whatever habits you have taken on that go against Allah's warnings and guidance. There is no God but God, Allah. Allah is known by many names, but regardless of name, there is no other God but He. When you say Allah, Jehovah, or Yahweh, or God the Father, you are speaking of the only true God. None is equal to Him or shares His Godness. All the prophets and messengers of God said so. They all commanded the people to worship only the one true God and to obey the messenger sent by God. Jesus said so. Noah said so. Muhammad said so. Peace be upon all the messengers of Allah. Muhammad, born approximately 1400 years ago, remains the world's most thoroughly documented example of the ancient truth of Islam. The truth of Islam is that there is only one supreme being and that you should give yourself to his worship exclusively and wholeheartedly. Jesus did that. Jesus said his people should do that. Muhammad did that. Muhammad called all people to do that. Muhammad lived to be 63 years old. There are no missing years in his documented life history. From the time he began to preach the worship of the one God at his age 40, the following 23 years of living example are especially well preserved in detailed records of what he said, what he did, how he practiced, and how he preached. Muhammad openly proclaimed the message of Allah as it was revealed to him in the form of the Holy Quran. Then he gave a perfect, that is, fully human, example of how to follow Allah's guidance in every aspect of life. In the purity of the Quran, the principal miracle of Muhammad's prophethood, the sincere followers of previous scriptures found a confirmation of the truth that had come before, a further light by which to walk in the straight way, and a correction of errors that had taken many astray. In the fully human example of Prophet Muhammad's character and devotion, which showed an inspired example of balanced spirituality and rationality in daily life, they found the promised comforter. Many communities of Christians accepted Islam as a continuation of the purity that they had already come to love, but could no longer find in the church of their time. Also, several Jews recognized Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, as being, quote, that prophet, end quote, mentioned in their own scriptures. Not only did the prophet's faith, devotion, and service to Allah bring spiritual joy and the help of Allah for him personally, the message from Allah in the verses of the Quran and the beautiful pattern of the prophet's conduct and teaching molded a new community of believers, starting with some of the most ignorant, crude, pagan people on the face of the earth at that time, the pre-Islamic Arabs. Where there had been illiteracy, oppression, drunkenness, infanticide, and blasphemy, in the short course of 23 years, there came a momentum of scholarship, liberation, sobriety, respect for life, and God consciousness that spread around the world, advanced civilization, and eventually brought Europe out of the Dark Ages. Thus, Muhammad's example demonstrates for us the fact that the exclusive worship of the one true God promotes success in the individual and success in the society. Would you like to see peace, purity, and success in your life and in the life of society? Would you like for your life to be in accordance with the faith preached and practiced by Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad? If so, accept to make your worship pure. Then put purity into practice by declaring, there is no God but God. Muhammad is the messenger of God, and living according to your declaration of faith. And it's stamped Masjid al-Mu'minun, where the believers bow down. Visit 4412 South 3rd Street, Memphis, Tennessee, Fridays and Sundays at 1:15 p.m. Phone 901-789-1904. And it also gives the post office box 901259, Memphis, Tennessee 38109. Alhamdulillah. Ancient success formula still works, and the promise of God is true. Do we remember where these are from? It's from the Bible. What part? Other than Matthew chapter 5, which is the reference book.
New Testament.
It's called the New Testament, but what is that thing, that section?
The gospel.
It's not Revelation.
Oh, yeah. Bless our God.
Yeah, it's the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes are contained in what thing?
That is
I think I shall tell you. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount starts with the Beatitudes, which is blessed are, blessed are, blessed are. And that's what the Beat really means. Yes, sir.
With the Sermon on the Mount, and the prophet picked up on the last sermon.
We need a mic.
Yes, I was saying with the Sermon on the Mount and the prophet's last khutbah, last sermon, do they have any connection?
Hadn't thought about that. Had not thought about that. It's worth looking into. That'll save me from making a wrong comment without thinking. But you notice that these assurances are actually promises. When you see shall, that's talking about the future. That's a promise. And you notice in the history of the Christian world, the bishops have met multiple times to debate and discuss things, but they never debated whether the pure in heart would be blessed or whether they shall see God. None of these was ever debated. The only things that were debated were the things that Jesus didn't say in the first place. But there's nothing that he actually said that they debated. So you get, when you get off base, that which you don't have a scriptural base for, it becomes debatable. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. And I don't know the original language enough to know what is the original word for peacemakers. But that's also something to look into. because peace could be some form of shalom or salam. That's interesting.
It is in Aramaic.
Aramaic, right, was the original language. So the Quran has this dua: our Lord, grant us what thou didst promise unto us through thine apostles. You know, there's just quoted a promise to us made through Adam. Whoever follows my guidance upon them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. Then we just looked at some promises through Jesus. So one thing is to just be aware that that dua is there.
Another thing, if we
Microphone.
I've been trying to learn Surah Al-Alaq, and I think the last verse in the it said that the books that it's already in the books that came to Musa and Ibrahim.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just confirming, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the Quran says that the Quran is a confirmation of what came before. So I normally have an Arabic ambush in the Talim when I do it. So there's something to look at right there. What can we make out of that? So I'm assuming the first step is to try to make out the alphabets and see what the sounds might possibly be.
Surely Allah speaks the truth.
Yeah.
All right, so the first word is indeed, and we call it inna, but it should be inna, not the I sound, but the E sound. Inna. That means indeed, certainly, truly, verily. Inna. The center part, I think, is new vocabulary, so we can skip that. Because I see people reaching for their cheat machine already.
It's waqdal.
Wa'ada. Wa'ada. Inna wa'ada. What's after wa'ada? Allahi. We have to put a doubler on that L. We had somebody in Arabic class call it a W. Yeah, but it's a doubler. Allahi. And the last word. We all say haq. I've been saying haq for years, but more like hack. 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 I had to listen to some reciters to see if they dared to say something different from what we've been saying all these years. And they weren't scared to differ from us. So it's more like hack. It might not always be hack, but instead of hawk, hack. Inna wa'adallahi haqqa. Inna wa'adallahi haqqa. Walaikum assalam.
So the rule was taught that there's distinction between these two H's in there,
Right,
and that H supposed to be the hard side. I'm just trying to
right.
figure out what's what.
Yeah, it's hawk, not hack. Ha, ha, hawk. Hawk or hack. But to make the H hard doesn't mean that the letter A type sound has to be hard. It has to be heavy. So the H's, there's a soft H and a hard H, but with the letter A, so to speak, there's a light one and a heavy one. So hawk with a ah is heavy. Ah is more light. So you can still do heavy H and combine it with a light hack, hack. All right. And when I listen to the reciters get to that particular word, it's not all the way hawk for sure. It's not all the way hack like HACK in English, but it's moving away from hawk. Put it that way. Inna wa'adallahi haq. Any idea? We know that inna is truly, verily, certainly, indeed. Allahi with the I on the end is of Allah, from Allah. So do we know the wa'ada or the haq?
Is a verbal noun.
Yep.
I hear them all the time say, Waqadullah, Sharika. So,
No, that's a whole different word.
And, well, indeed, and
No, it's one word. Wa'ada.
wa'ada,
Wa'ada.
promise.
Promise. Yes.
And I didn't find it.
Yes. So, truly the promise of Allah, what? True. Haq. True,
Real.
real, obligatory. Yes. Inna wa'adallahi haq. Inna wa'adallahi haq. Inna wa'adallahi haq. So this transliteration system uses the double capital A's for the letter Ain, which it turns out that we forgot how to say Ain. We used to be able to say it when we were kids. But as we grow old and English doesn't say it, so we lost it. But in Arabic class, adult Arabic class, we were taking some little toy cars and going, and that's all it is. Wa'ad, wa'ad. Inna wa'adallahi haqq. Certainly the promise of Allah is true. Inna wa'adallahi haqq. Now, here's an ayah. O men. Instead of O ye who believe, it's O men or mankind. Certainly the promise of Allah is true. Inna wa'adallahi haqq. Let not then this present life deceive you, nor let the chief deceiver deceive you about Allah. So one of the things that I got from it is that the promise of Allah is long-term truth, reality. And the present life is short-term situation, the way things look at the moment, which can get a person caught up in the momentary appearance and forget the long term. That's what happened to Adam.
That's what happened in this world. That's all we look at. And that's what we taught, really. That's what's put on us every
that's
day.
right.
This world and your environment. Like I said, I was saying, your environment make you if you listen at it.
Yep. So what is the pronunciation of that line? Inna wa'adallahi haqq. Yes. Now, emphasizing the very same thing. What is with you must vanish. What is with Allah will endure. What is with you is the present life. What is with Allah is the long term. It will endure. And then a promise on the end, and we will certainly bestow on those who patiently persevere their reward according to the best of their actions. The Quran also says Allah is with the Sabirin, the long-term people. Now the next ayah, whoever works righteousness, man or woman, and has faith, verily to him will we give a new life, a life that is good and pure, and we will bestow on such their reward according to the best of their actions. So ayah 96 and 97 end with the same promise. That's a double reinforcement, so to speak. But there's two promises. One is the promise of a new life, and then the promise of the reward. So Friday, I took a little liberty and took a little time using my own life as an example of a new life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In here.
Yeah, I was talking about my road dog life. When I was one of the road dogs, didn't know Nan Muslim. Okay. Wasn't on Nan Straightway. Never had the words straightway cross my mind. Just every which way. Yeah. And my road dogs are all dead. I mean, just literally.
Yeah.
Dead. And I'm running into some people that I don't remember. And they say, you taught me back in so and so and so. You look the same. Alhamdulillah. So I'm just thinking the promise of Allah is true. Anybody here living a new life?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's why we can relate so good. I mean, it was for real, you know. I mean, everybody said me too, you know, or whatever, you know. It hit home.
Yeah.
It resonated.
You're trying to get on the mic.
And really, when you said all of your road dogs, your buddies were dead, Thanksgiving, my family came over and we were looking at some pictures I had on. I got a family wall picture, and I showed them a picture where we were at the club. So the whole family, about 15 of us around the table, and I said, "It's amazing. Everybody on this picture is dead, but me." And you said the same thing. I said, "I know that wasn't no coincidence. It was meant to be." You know? I mean, every one of them did.
Every one of them.
Everyone.
Everyone.
Yes.
Well, like what's that?
And I was just sharing with Assad because he was out of town, the cook bar on Friday, how it resonated with me. And I think back to those that was in my circle. And you made a reference to the ones that you was connected to. Those brothers and sisters back then, as I can recall, are gone up. And I was sharing with some of the believers on Friday how when you look at us, and even if you think that's a race different from how they have kept themselves and how.
But, how could that work when you was drinking the good stuff?
But when you said that Friday, I thought about, we just had our 51st class reunion. That was our first one. And it's interesting that when we had having one of our meetings and they started talking about the banquet and wanting to have And I was telling them, I said, well, I really want to use no money of my money toward no alcohol. Saying, well, you know, it may be. So you have to accommodate those who don't drink alcohol by having sparkling cider or something like that. So one of the guys said, well, why don't you take a vote to see who wants alcohol? I was shocked myself that the majority of the people didn't want alcohol. Out of about 2, 3 raised their hand. One was drunk at the meeting. You know, but it was interesting because he kept bringing up about, you know, I like to drink socially and all this, and I know people say that, but the reality was when one of the other guys said, now the majority said we don't want alcohol, and that just really just kind of blew my up that meet on the regular on the corner, and he told me you should come with us sometime. We just do. I don't hang on no corners with nobody for nothing. I don't care what the purpose is. I wasn't doing it back then. I'm certainly not going to do that now, hanging on the corner. But that's the mindset. And I was talking to one of my real close friends who've been friends since elementary, and still been real close even now. That at some point, at what point do they change that? You know, we were just talking about how people live their lives. And first, when I walked up and I pulled up on life, I'm like, God, these are old people. And I said, alhamdulillah, a rough life. And it shows. So, you know, just talking about how you sit around and this is what we're going to do. We're going to hang out up here. Even then that the mindset was different because it didn't move you then. And so it certainly ain't gonna. But alhamdulillah, you have to thank Allah, but for the grace of Allah that goes on. Because you see these people and then you gotta interject because everybody got their opinion and you got yours too. And so people are like, well, you have to be at the meeting, you have to say, because people will respect the fact that you bring something that is sound. You don't even have to mention Islam. You got to bring them something that's sound, and they can accept it. And they, and, you know, and even in talking, I kept mentioning God because you know, you got these people, you got several who become ministers, you got people or women who I guess they consider themselves evangelists. Whatever it is, you come with a God-fearing spirit, and that's what you give them, and they accept it. And they, you need to be a, and they know I'm the one who Muslim because they kept bringing up, yeah, we remember when we was in high school and y'all kept coming there talking about the Nation of Islam. Because it was back then where it got started, and they remember that. I said there has been a transformation. So even then, even though they didn't know the journey, they knew where being in high school. They tell everybody about Islam, and the guy I was dating, we both telling people about Islam. You know, at Jita High School. So you know, is a blessing and a mercy from Allah that you strive and you stay on Surat al-Mustaqim. That's all.
Well,
I was just thinking on when I'm doing yard work at my house, I mow the grass. If you have weeds, you mow the weeds as well. So with that thought, when Allah says it's not because of our righteousness, it's because of Allah's grace. And that's the testament that we're still here, is because of Allah's grace. and that he is not finished with us yet.
Alhamdulillah.
So,
Well taken.
Look us up. We'd like to say for those who are watching live or on a recording, it's been brought to our attention that the screen is reversed. So I don't know what happened. We'll have to look into it and see what settings have caused that. But what shows to us, it's reversed. So no doubt we will do something in the process of figuring out what has happened, because for years that's not ever happened. Anyhow, as we get to wrap it up, this is a quote of Jesus. Ye do err, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God. Just think about the fact that the promise of God is true, but what happens when a person doesn't know the promise in the first place? You can't collect on the promise. You don't even think about going that way. The promise of Allah wakes you up to opportunities and gives understandings. But if you don't have it, then you have something other than the guidance as the perspective. And that's so erring doesn't have to be as complicated as we might imagine it. It just could be just not knowing the guidance or knowing what it says. Ye do err, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God. So again, this final ayah, Man amila salihan min zakarin aw untha wa huwa mu'min. Whoever works righteousness, man or woman, and has faith. This strikes me as unusual because usually it's believe and do righteous deeds. The faith comes first and the righteous deeds come. But Allah reverses that usual order here. He puts working righteousness, amilu salihat, at the very top line. Man amila salihat, whoever works righteousness, man or woman. And then at the end of the second line, wa huwa mu'min, and he is a believer. So I'm not going to take responsibility for declaring some kind of doctrine, but this catch my attention that this is calling attention to the working righteous deeds just by the fact that it's an unusual order. And then the promise is a new life, and the promise after that is the reward according to the best of their actions. So I think that's the end. We have any other questions, comments at all? Well, it is the end.
Good job.
Let's close with a dua. Our Lord, do not cause our hearts to deviate now that thou hast guided us, and grant us mercy from thy very own presence. Truly thou art the grantor without measure. Amen.
Announcement. Before the results of the election for
Just raise it up.
okay. Yeah, this one. This one. Okay. There were 154 eligible voters. Those that were cast for 70. There were 84 ballots that we did not contact. The results of the election, Khalid Abdullah had 42 votes. Amina, man, that was, yes. I mean, I mean, Ross had 60 votes. Tawfiq Muhammad had 37 votes. Naeem Rashadat had 60 votes. And Kimberly Spade had 57 votes. So therefore, the new board members are the Abdullah, Amina, Amin Das, Naeem Rashadat, and Kimberly Spade.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the board of directors at Masjid Al Mu'minun, thank you for allowing me to serve you. My time is December 31st, 2024. I want to congratulate the new board members. We're looking for some good things to come from this board, inshallah. Please give them your support. Also, it's additional announcements I need to make. Please don't forget the coat drive. We said it was from November the 1st to the 30th. If you know of anybody in the community or even a family member that need a coat, please feel free to get a coat. They're in the hall area right here. They're going toward the man's office and take a coat. It is cold, and we want to make sure anyone who needs a coat gets a coat. So you don't have to let me know you got it. Just take the coat, keep it moving. That's between you and Allah. Okay. So also, Community Affairs Committee met today. We are going to, inshallah, we're looking at doing an event November, New Year's Day, January 1st, 2025, inshallah. We want to have a day of prayer and family day here at Masjid Al Mu'minun, starting with Salatul Dhuhr and having a family day at the Heat Street upstairs. So we want to kick this year off right, doing something community-wise. Prayer included, starting with Salat and having an event to invite the entire community out. Let's start 2025 out and just make the whole year wonderful, inshallah. Also, so you'll be getting some more information from me in regard to that. The Halal Food Pantry, we want to remember the Halal Food Pantry. They are in need of peanut butter and tuna. Those are two proteins that are filling for our and you see peanut butter or tuna, pick some up, bring it back to the master for the Halal Food Pantry. So try not to get the peanut butter full of sugar, but because you have some diabetic people. So keep that in mind, but they are in need of peanut butter and tuna. We want to keep this message going to let anybody know that you see who's not at the masjid. Let them know if they're out and about to please pick up peanut butter and tuna and bring it to the masjid to help fill the bags of our recipients. It's been a pleasure. Alhamdulillah. I'll be looking for announcements from me on what's going to be coming up, inshallah. I am the interim chair for community affairs. So inshallah, we have these positions filled in 2025. I will maintain the integrity of the committee while inshallah. I'm sitting here and try to keep some things going. So we have some activities, some things going to be coming up. Be looking for the email. You must read your email and you must listen to the announcement. Y'all have a wonderful day and stay warm. Thanks so much.